Hey everyone, how we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit, and welcome back to another video. And in the Ask SplitSuit a Question thread, a couple of you guys asked hand history questions, and this one actually comes from Facebook and comes from Randy. And Randy wants me to analyze a hand he recently played in the casino. He prefaces the hand by saying this was 1-2 no limit, and there were two of the loosest, most aggressive players I'd ever seen at the table. They both had extremely large chip stacks and took great delight in pushing everyone else at the table around. One of them would make bets of 50 to 150 with nothing. He took great delight in showing some of the bluffs, and then folding if he got called. If he had anything at all, he'd go all in and dare anyone to call. In this particular hand, I had ace-king offsuit on the button. The lag is under the gun, opens to $50, folds around, here decides to 3-bet, and essentially min 3-bets up to $100, and here we are. So first and foremost, the aggro tar decided to raise to 50 or 25 big blinds, which is incredibly huge and incredibly atypical, and is already going to tell you this is kind of going to be one of those special, weird, one-off hands that is definitely not going to happen very often, but when it does happen, it's important that you know how to react to it. So in this situation, I love the fact that Hero's 3-betting. I definitely want to be 3-betting here, and in general, I usually don't want to get 200 big blinds all in pre-flop with ace-king, but in a situation like this, where I'm against someone who's horrible, is going to stack off with a range that's certainly behind ace-king, and is opening with a range that's not just aces when he goes to this ridiculously huge size, this is a situation where I'd like to get as much money in as quickly as possible, especially with a hand like ace-king. So because of that, I love the fact that we're 3-betting. Now, I'm going to be very nitpicky here with the size, because I think the size is very, very important. $100 may seem large. That is 50 big blinds in this game. But given the open raise size, our 3-bet is actually a little bit small, and I don't think it really does necessarily what we want it to do. So obviously if we 3-bet and he shoves, that's great. If we think that by 3-betting to 100 gives him the most amount of room to come over the top and shove, and we think we're going to 3-bet stack that off every time and we get a bigger edge that way, fine. But at least it's done with a plan and a thought. Otherwise, I'm going to take this up to a little bit more of kind of my 3x size and go up to say $150 or $175 or even $200, whatever. Because one of the big things that I don't want to have happen is I don't want to 3-bet to 100, just the aggro tard calls, and we have a situation where there's 200 in the middle, roughly 330 behind, and then we're in a situation where what are we going to do if we face that flop shove? We are still going to miss the flop, give or take around 2/3 the time, and do I really want to get blasted off my hand or put into that really, really tough spot where I don't know where the heck I am? And I say that because we could have gone to a bigger size preflop and still generated a good plus EV play. It's not like I'm trading a plus EV play for simplicity. I'm still taking a plus EV play by going for a bigger size 3-bet here. I still expect that to be good against someone who's this bad. So because of that, again, love the 3-bet, don't love the 3-bet size, and that's really where this hand starts to get wacky. Because in this situation, we actually end up getting cold called by the fish. Oh my goodness, I have no idea what the heck he's cold calling $99 with. And then the aggro tard, of course, calls. So in this situation, if we look at it just going into the flop, we have 300 in the middle, give or take. We have roughly 1 SPR against the aggro tard, and we have 1.3-ish against the fish. So this is a small SPR situation, and what that means is that as a typical default, if I ever have an overpair or top pair, then I'm going to be stacking it off. But in this situation, we catch quite possibly one of the most awkward flops in the world. Check. And we end up facing a donk for $100. So again, I'm going to kind of go back to pre-flop, right? So I wouldn't have 3-bet to that size, which means I would literally never find myself in a confusing situation here, because whether I got a 1 caller or 2 callers, the SPR would be so incredibly small that it wouldn't even be a discussion. In this exact situation, things are obviously pretty weird. Now, we've seen this guy bet between 50 and 150 with nothing before, so him betting 100 here doesn't really tell me that he only has ace-jack or king-queen or anything like that. He could have ace-4, he could have possibly a queen-jack, he could have a whole bunch of different crazy, stupid stuff. And the fish cold calling the 3-bet, depending on how bad he is, if he's been that aggressive and spewy and you said he's been pretty loose, I can't squarely put him on pocket jacks or pocket tens. So because of that, I'm not changing my stack off plan here. And I really have no problem just shoving this and kind of going from there. I expect the aggro retard will call with hands that I have an edge on. If the fish comes along, well, I'm hoping that he doesn't just have tens, but because he's a bad player, he could have something like ace queen. He could have something like that. Obviously, there's, it gets a little weird because now ace jack beats us too, but in general, I'm expecting this to be a good profitable shove. But again, the real wacky point was the pre-flop sizing, because that's where things kind of stem from in this situation. And whenever you find yourself in like a tricky spot on like a turn or a river, or in a situation like this on the flop, always kind of go back a street and say, okay, well, did I make any mistakes there that maybe created a situation that sucked for me? Sometimes you're going to end up finding leaks earlier in the hand. In this situation, hero just calls, and again, I just would have jammed it here and felt pretty comfortable. End up getting a call from the fish. 3 on the turn, changes nothing. Check, check, and hero decides to bet 100. So I'm not sure why hero's choosing some of these sizes. These sizes definitely seem on the smaller side of the spectrum, and that's the thing. $100 may feel like a lot of money, but when you're playing poker, it's just big blinds. And in a situation where you're looking at this pot, shoving would definitely be typical. I mean, the fish only has $300, which is just half pot at this point. The aggro retard has even less than that. So this is a situation where I would just jam. I'm still in a value bet mindset. If one of them has me beat, sucks to be me. But overall, I think just betting 100 here is pretty much just asking to get screwed. You're giving odds to any weird draw, and I don't really see them being folding if you bet the whole thing versus calling for 100. I think if they're that bad, they're that bad. So maximize their inelasticity in this situation. So we end up getting a call from the fish, 8 on the river. He ends up jamming for 200. And at this point, we're getting 5-1 on a call. So at this point, Randy says, I knew there was a possibility he had the straight, and I thought he might take a stab at the pot. I put him on ace queen, queen jack, or maybe ace x. I was getting decent pot odds, so I called, only to have him turn over queen 9 for the straight. I think I played this hand pretty well and just got drawn out on, but I'd like your opinion. Okay, so I have 2 major opinions in this situation. First and foremost, you made some bet sizing errors that I think really ended up screwing you in this situation. Again, I expect a better 3-bet size is going to be more profitable in the long run, and I also expect that a better turn size is going to be more profitable in the rare event you ever get to the turn that way in the future. My second opinion is that this is quite possibly the greatest poker game I've ever seen. If you got someone to cold call $99 pre-flop with queen 9 suited, it almost looks to the point where this hand history would be fake, but I've played in this kind of game occasionally live as well. So I would never quit this game, pretty much stay there until these guys quit or get so drunk that they pass out, whatever. You stay at this game and you grind it and you enjoy it. But overall, like I said, the big things strategically were pre-flop, understanding that sizing, and on the turn, definitely changing the sizing. And like I said, even on the flop, I just would have jammed it for value at that point and felt pretty comfortable. But this is a pretty special hand history and not the kind of situation that's going to come up very often. So Randy, thanks for the great question, and if you or anyone else has a hand or poker related question, feel free to leave it on our Google Plus page. I'll leave a link for that in the description box. And also please make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this type of video. So same as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there and happy grinding.